in the middle of the night, and what they found was an apartment full of pieces of...
He lived in a plain apartment in a busy city. He went to work, spoke politely to neighbors, and smiled at strangers. But behind a locked door, he was hiding something that would eventually shock the entire world. For over 13 years, Jeffrey Dahmer murdered 17 men and boys, and almost no one noticed. This is not just the story of a killer. It is the story of a system that failed, a community that was ignored, and a man who used ordinary life as the perfect mask for extraordinary evil. A troubled beginning, the making of a monster. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. On the surface, his early life looked unremarkable. He grew up in a modest household in Bath Township, Ohio. His parents were not abusive, but they were deeply disconnected. His mother struggled with mental health issues, and his father was often consumed by work. There was little warmth in the home, and young Jeffrey learned to live inside his own mind. As a child, he became fascinated with dead animals. He would collect roadkill, examine bones, and preserve specimens in jars. What seemed like a strange hobby was actually an early warning sign, a compulsion forming in the shadows of neglect. By the time he reached high school, he had developed a severe drinking problem. He was known as a class clown of sorts, performing odd behaviors for attention. Yet underneath the awkward humor was a young man growing darker by the day. His parents' marriage collapsed in the summer of 1978. His mother left, his father moved out, and Jeffrey, just 18 years old, was left alone in the family house for weeks. It was in this period of complete isolation that he committed his first murder. He picked up a hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks, invited him home, and when Hicks tried to leave, Dahmer struck him from behind and strangled him. He buried the body in the backyard and went on with his life, carrying that secret alone for years. After this, Dahmer attempted to follow a normal path. He enrolled in college but dropped out due to alcohol abuse. His father, hoping to instill discipline, pushed him to join the United States Army. He served as a combat medic in Germany from 1979 to 1981, but was eventually discharged because of his persistent drinking. There were no murders during this period. But Dahmer later admitted the dark urges never left him. He simply had no opportunity to act on them. He returned to Ohio briefly before his father sent him to live with his grandmother in West Dallas, Wisconsin. The move was meant to give him structure. Instead, it gave him a new hunting ground. By the mid-1980s, Dahmer was frequenting gay bathhouses, where he would drug men and violate them as they slept unconscious. Though he was arrested twice for incidents of indecent exposure, the charges were minor, and authorities never connected the dots. He was a troubled man with a drinking problem, not yet a suspect in anything worse, and that invisibility suited him perfectly. Hidden in plain sight, how Dahmer kept getting away, by 1987, the killing resumed. His second victim was Stephen Tuomi, picked up from a Milwaukee bar. Dahmer later told authorities he had no clear memory of the murder itself, only that he woke up beside a dead man. That moment, rather than horrifying him into stopping, seemed to unlock something. The killings that followed were increasingly deliberate and organized. One of the most chilling aspects of Dahmer's crimes was how carefully he selected his victims. He targeted men who existed on society's margins, young men who were gay, poor, or from minority communities. Many were drifters or people whose disappearances would go largely unnoticed. He offered them money for photographs, promised companionship, or lured them with the prospect of a simple night out. His calm, mild-mannered demeanor put them at ease. He did not look dangerous. He looked ordinary. He also moved through neighborhoods where police presence was either low or largely dismissive. His apartment on North 25th Street in Milwaukee was located in a high-crime area where residents already felt overlooked by law enforcement. When neighbors complained about foul smells coming from his unit, Dahmer explained that his freezer had broken and some meat had spoiled. Authorities accepted the explanation. Nobody looked further. In 1988, Dahmer was convicted of sexually assaulting a 13-year-old boy. It was a serious crime that should have triggered deeper scrutiny. Instead, he received 5 years of probation, served time at a work release camp, and was released 2 months early. He was required to register as a sex offender and check in regularly with a probation officer. Yet despite these conditions, he returned to killing almost immediately after his release and continued murdering without interruption. The most damning failure came in May 1991. A 14-year-old boy named Konorak Synthesymphone was found naked, bleeding, and disoriented in the street. Neighbors called the police, concerned for the boy's safety. When officers arrived, Dahmer appeared on the scene and calmly told them the boy was his 19-year-old partner and that they had simply had an argument. Despite the neighbors' protests and their insistence that something was terribly wrong, the officers believed Dahmer. They escorted the boy back into the apartment. Within hours, Synthesomphone was dead. The officers involved were later fired. But the damage was irreversible. The incident exposed a catastrophic combination of racial bias, indifference, and institutional failure. Dahmer's victims were overwhelmingly men of color, Black, Asian, and Latino. Their lives were assigned less urgency by a system that should have protected them equally. And Dahmer, a white, clean-cut, soft-spoken man, was repeatedly given the benefit of the doubt. He understood this dynamic, whether consciously or not, and it shielded him for years. The arrest, the trial, and the legacy that remains. On the night of July 26, 1991, everything unraveled. A man named Tracy Edwards managed to escape from Dahmer's apartment with a handcuff dangling from his wrist. He flagged down 2 Milwaukee police officers on the street and led them back to the building. When officers entered apartment 213, they discovered something beyond comprehension. Photographs of dismembered bodies were stacked in a drawer. Human skulls sat on top of a computer. A severed head was stored in the refrigerator. A 57-gallon drum in the bedroom contained decomposing remains dissolved in acid. The apartment was, in every sense, a chamber of horrors hidden inside an ordinary building in a city where thousands of people went about their daily lives. Dahmer was arrested without resistance. He was calm. He answered questions. He even appeared cooperative. That composure, which had protected him for over a decade, was still intact even at the moment of his capture. In January 1992, Dahmer stood trial on 15 counts of murder. His defense argued that he was legally insane, driven by compulsions he could not control. The prosecution painted a different picture, a calculating man who was fully aware of his actions and who carefully planned each crime to avoid detection. The jury agreed with the prosecution. Dahmer was found sane and guilty on all 15 counts, receiving 15 consecutive life sentences totaling 957 years. A 16th sentence followed for his 1978 murder of Stephen Hicks. He was sent to Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. In prison, Dahmer reportedly expressed genuine remorse. He read the Bible, converted to Christianity, and told interviewers he wished for his own death. On November 28, 1994, he was beaten to death by a fellow inmate during a work detail. He was 34 years old. The Dahmer case left behind questions that have never fully disappeared. How does a man commit 17 murders over 13 years in a populated city without being stopped? The answer is uncomfortable. It was a combination of Dahmer's calculated manipulation, systemic failures in law enforcement, racial inequality in how missing persons were investigated, and the tragic reality that many of his victims were people whose lives were already treated as less visible by the world around them. His story is not just a tale of one man's evil. It is a mirror held up to the failures of institutions meant to protect the vulnerable. The 17 lives he took deserved more attention, more urgency, and more justice than they received. That truth is perhaps the darkest part of this entire story.